So I'm working on a 2004 Chevy Silverado 1500 with a 5.3 right now. It's had all kinds of electrical problems that I could not figure out, and it took me a while to get to. I didn't really see any other videos on it, but it seemed like a common problem on some forums that no one figured out. But my high beam light switch would kill my engine, and so I'll start from square one. It would start up and it would idle pretty good. I had the reduced engine power light on the dash though, under here. And it had about 12 codes showing up under the check engine light. It was all throttle body communication errors, and there was a couple transmission codes and injection circuit malfunctions, stuff like that. So I didn't know, and it had no throttle response when I would hit the gas at all. So I changed out both my throttle position sensors, both on the engine and the one on the gas pedal itself. That didn't do anything. I changed out my PCM because it seemed like it'd all be linked through there. That didn't fix anything. I looked around a lot online, and apparently these things had all kinds of ground issues. And one of them was this one. It was a braided cable that would go to the back of the engine, and then there was another one for the PCM that came out of this wiring harness. I cut both of those, and I moved them to the front here so I seen it was getting good ground. There's another ground underneath the front end, right up in, where the heck is it? Right there on the very front of the frame. And there is another one under this door right there. Everyone was saying clean all those up, and that's a pretty common problem. I cleaned them all. Nothing did the trick for me. So I ended up messing around with it a ton, and I figured out it had something to do with my headlights. So I figured out that if I took my low beam relay out, it would run pretty good. It would take it out of limp mode, and it would actually run fine. But then I tried switching my high beams on at one point, and it ended up killing the engine. So it was obviously something with the headlights. I went through this entire headlight wiring harness, and I couldn't find a break or anything like that. Well, I looked at a couple videos that kind of got me an idea of where to look. So if you're my high and my low beam on my driver's side were both a lot dimmer than they need to be, and the passenger side was still good. It still looked okay. So when I went through this wiring harness, I figured out how everything worked. So the passenger side, I'm not quite sure where that one's grounded. Well, actually, no, sorry. The passenger side is grounded to the frame underneath this one that I showed you. But I wasn't sure where the driver's side was grounded. See, the cable on the frame goes to all of the light bulbs except for these two that were both dim. So I ended up cutting this wire right here on my high beam for the ground, and I put just a ground to the light socket right to the chassis, and then it got really bright. So then I ended up tracing the ground wires off of these, and it went all the way up the wiring harness up into the fuse box here to this green plug. And it's actually, so this will plug in right here, and it's actually this black wire right here. So those two headlights are getting ground through the fuse block somewhere. Now I'm not sure what's actually causing bad ground in it, but all I had to do to fix this issue was add in a separate ground cable. So I just spliced in. So this right here is the ground wire coming out of the fuse box, and it would normally go right to the light socket. All I did was put this extra ground wire in, and I have it running, and it's just mounted right here. And basically that just gives good ground, and it kind of shoots it back into the fuse box where it should be getting ground from, and it's giving that terminal good ground. And it seemed to have worked pretty good for my truck. It seems like it's running fine now. I took it out of limp mode, The throttle body is fine. The fuel pump is fine. Yeah, everything seems like it works on it. So yeah, it's just something to do with where this fuse block gets ground from on that terminal. It basically just had to get better ground, so that's all I had to do to fix it. The way that I tested it, so your headlights were dim right there, but another way, once I kind of started digging in, I took this off of the fuse panel, and I put a test light from the ground on the battery to the port, and it was really dim. And then actually this one below it is a ground for something else. So I was just going back and forth between the two, and I could tell it was a lot brighter on the one underneath than the one above it. And that was actually with the key on. It was plenty bright with the key off, but as soon as I turned the key on and checked it, it went a lot dimmer, so it was losing that ground once the key was on. So anyway, I didn't really see a whole lot of videos or forums or anything where people actually found the solution to this, but just adding that extra ground wire to go up into the fuse block to that one terminal seemed like it did the trick for me.